Brian Foster, and this is the Grindhouse Institute. On each episode of this podcast, Jeremy Floyd and I program and discuss a double or triple feature movie night. Each of the movies share common themes, and we discuss them here. We're happy you could join us for today's film block that we call The Most Dangerous Taboo. Humans always crave that next fix, the next cup of coffee, the next cigarette, the next line of cocaine. We are compelled to satisfy these cravings, and in many instances, without us consciously knowing. We'll do anything to satiate our desire for the next high. But what if you have satisfied all of your cravings? What if you've exhausted any opportunity to placate that itch? What if that cup of coffee, that cigarette, that line of blow no longer created the same effect? We would need to search out something bigger, something more substantial, to truly soothe our most primal desires. Today's Grindhouse Institute block is a double feature, 2020's The Hunt and 1993's Hard Target. An unsuspecting group of people find themselves in a clearing, unsure of why they're there, why they're chosen to be there. One by one, they are each killed in spectacular fashion by a variety of weapons. When a lone survivor makes it out of the initial onslaught, her instincts drive her to find out why she and this group of strangers were the targets of the hunt. In Hard Target, we're introduced to John Woo's first foray into American cinema. When a woman loses contact with her father, she travels to New Orleans to uncover the mystery of his disappearance. With the help of a drifter, the two embark on an investigation into a private company that provides a one-of-a-kind experience. Thank you for listening to the Grindhouse Institute. Please enjoy.
It's like a drug, isn't it? To bring a man down. Was it worth it?
Every nickel.
Hey everybody, welcome back to, and we've got a name for it now, the Grindhouse Institute. Very excited about this title. I'm Brian Foster. I'm here with Jeremy Floyd, and we are discussing today a double feature, two movies about hunts. I'm not exactly sure how to, without giving too much away, how to describe the two or how we came to that connection. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I think you started off in the right direction. It's hunting, but hunting what?
Yeah.
Some sort of animal. Is it the most dangerous of all animals? Dangerous?
The dangerous.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to say.
I think it's very dangerous.
Yeah.
So interestingly enough, we are hunting human beings in these films. Jeremy and I were lucky enough to go to the drive-in.
See, not just me. It's not just me. Tripping over my own words.
3 weeks ago? A month ago?
Oh, yeah. It's a month now. Yeah, it's
time's been flying by in a strangely rapid clip.
Sweet ass time getting to this one.
That was on me. But we got to watch at a drive-in, which, in my opinion, great drive-in movie to see. It was a fun flick.
I think what would be fun to talk about is just like the driving experience a little bit as well. It's like,
sure.
Okay, so we're here in, COVID netherworld, and we're in the before times. We'd be able to go to a theater and watch it with an audience sitting next to people, and getting the audience feedback and all that kind of stuff. And then now that's not possible, but we found a drive-in that was not too far away.
Not too far at all.
That could kind of simulate that experience in a way.
And I thought it was great. I went to drive-ins as a little kid. I don't remember it. I remember being there maybe just looking out the car window, but I don't remember the whole act of driving in, knowing that there are humps and different elevations for the cars. So basically it turns into stadium seating.
Well, that's not at all drive-ins apparently, but this one had it.
This is a really legit drive-in movie theater.
Yeah.
I loved it.
There are two sort of stacks of cars and then an aisle, two stacks of cars and an aisle, two stacks of cars and an aisle. And you can approach from either side, and then both cars hop up on this like large speed bump essentially.
Right.
So that, it's essentially stadium seating.
Yeah,
exactly.
It was so cool, but it was really awkward because we had to back in and it was so dark in there, and you like flashed your lights to let us know where you were sitting. It was almost like you waving, like here we are, but you flashing the lights, so we had to back in. It was pretty intense, and then tons of people were there. I mean, it was a packed house.
Yeah, we had a pretty good night. I think it was a weekend though as well. So
Saturday, yeah. But I don't even think we said what movie we went to see.
Oh yeah. Well, we were hinting at it with all this hunting nonsense, but we went and saw The Hunt, the 2020 Hunt, which was supposed to be a 2019 Hunt.
2019.
But it was a movie that was too dangerous. They didn't want you to see it. A movie you weren't supposed to see.
Yeah, I also think it was a little mistaken for being a liberal, or liberals against. What am I trying to say here, man?
You tell me.
What am I trying to say here?
It was taken as like, this too much of a political stance, that it was blue America versus red America, and we have what was the first time it got shelved? Was it around one of our many mass shootings, and they wanted to pause it for that?
It was a timing thing, yeah.
And but then on top of that, the what do you call it? Like Barnum and Bailey PR came around to say that this movie is it's too dangerous to be seen in theaters, and then it's too controversial because we're already so divided, and then like they finally release it in probably the worst time they could have released it.
Yeah.
And,
I mean, I guess they had to get a movie out, right? They had that one in the can, and they're at this point, I don't know what they were supposed to do, but it came out, and I mean, obviously it's a violent film, but I didn't think in any way that it. I think it was a complete farce. It was completely out there. It was a satire of the fullest capacity.
No, for sure. And then also it was, it was extremely self-conscious of that aspect of it, of the what the Twitter world would think of it, and
right.
Which to me, obviously, I felt like that got in the way of the film, whereas if it had just embraced whatever it was, instead of it, trying to make excuses for itself, you know what I mean?
That's it.
If it didn't have that, and it just like presented it as a movie, well, then it would have been more successful at doing that. But instead, it had this kind of like self-conscious thing, and like, we'll get to it. But at one point, they had to, stop the movie right before the climax to go and explain this thing that was like
came out of nowhere.
You didn't need to have explained. It was like, okay, well,
No.
Who cares?
No, that had it was just in addition to almost. I didn't need it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, let's go through like what it's about. I mean, we've got the little film summary here, but I mean, the one that I've got here is 12 strangers wake up in a clearing.
Well, actually, there's before that we got a cold open with where we're sitting there reading a group text, which is the most compelling cinema you could ever imagine.
Right.
Something that it is obnoxious when it happens to you in real life, and excruciating when it's blazing across the screen, and it's you don't really know what's happening. It's just watching people chat on there that they say something about deplorables, and maybe it's hunting humans. It's not clear, but it's also not supposed to be clear at that time. And then we have a second cold open where we're on a private jet, and we see the Dennis system from It's Always Sunny. The Dennis system sits there, and he orders some caviar and champagne, and he's just overall established as sort of a pretentious douche, much like his character on Sunny. And after that, there's some guy comes wandering in, and he's drugged, and then it's supposed to seem like he's just drunk or whatever, and he wandered into first class. But it turns out he's drugged, and then they start fighting him and stabbing him in the eye with pencils, and some mysterious figure comes up from behind and like kills him with her high-heeled shoe to like finish him off. And this person they were deliberately not showing. It was like the back of her head. It's like this idea that it's working hard not to show you something. And then we see this guy. He was like thrown into, I don't know what, some kind of like cabin or holding deck or something. And there's a blonde woman next to him. And then we cut to, it's the morning. The blonde woman wakes up and she has like a dog bone in her mouth. And it looks like Khaleesi from Game of Thrones.
She's from American Horror Story.
Yeah, Emma Roberts, right?
Emma Roberts, yeah. She's pretty good. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where this IMDb synopsis came from, that these people just wake up in this long clearing, don't know where they are, don't know how they got there. They've obviously been chosen for something. But Emma Roberts being...
Sorry, I thought you wanted to like go beat by beat on this thing, and you just wanted to give it the log line.
Oh, no, that's okay, yeah. I didn't want to stop you from going on.
Yeah. Listen... You have to
I'll
stop
just put a little bit of crickets underneath at certain points. No. When we get to that scene, I mean, no, we should go through the whole movie. When we get to that scene where Emma Roberts is introduced, she's a top line star on American Horror Story. She's been one of the lead actresses and stars of every season for the last like 4 of them, and then within seconds of that movie starting and we seeing her face, she gets her fucking head blown off. And with the guy from the NBC show, This Is Us, they had like a very simple romantic gesture right off the bat. Obviously, It was like, oh, these guys are going to get to know each other.
That almost hit me.
No, she gets blown away in a second. And I think that obviously the shoe in the face scene was pretty bad too. But we knew where this movie was headed once we started seeing the mayhem and bedlam from that initial opener, that second cold. Well, no, that's the actual opener of the film after the plane ride.
Yeah, exactly. So we have sort of like 3 beginnings to the movie. And
exactly.
It wasn't sure where to start.
Now, do you think that was added? I think that those text messages were added. There had to be something because that was easily done in post. They could have done that at any time.
Uh-huh.
And I think that might have, something didn't feel right. Maybe it started with the plane ride. I think that makes more sense.
Yeah, it seems like that's where the movie wanted to start, was the plane ride, but they put the text message in there to then You know what would have been, sorry to interrupt, but you know what would have been really cool? Instead of opening with that black screen with the text messages on it, like you said, it's not really great cinema. You might as well be reading a book. Yeah.
If they would have done that interspersed throughout the film and just had a text bubble pop up and made that a motif just out of nowhere, I think that'd have been really rad. If like a scene just happened and all of a sudden, boom, there was a conversation going, and then you get more of the conversation throughout the film, and like each piece comes up.
What's funny is like watching it, you feel like where they wanted to start was with Khaleesi with a dog bone in her mouth, and just having it be total disorientation. You know, the audience is being oriented as the characters are being oriented. Yeah. And then, you know, maybe it was a series of either reshoots or recuts, because test audiences or, you know, producers were like, well, no one's going to know what's going on.
We need more info. We need to be so expository. Play for the dumb folks. Yeah, I mean, as
if a movie like this needs to have something explained.
Exactly. All I need, you know what, the biggest message that I got from film school from my script teacher was, don't play to the dumb people. Your audience is smart. Just show them what you need to show them and they'll figure it out. And with all that stuff on screen, I feel like it bogged that movie down. And without all that, I thought that movie was tight. It could have been an 87-minute movie, and you could have burned right through it, and it would have been a really nice little package.
Well, and without the two cold opens, for instance, without
two cold opens, like just saying that is wrong. Like edit.
Yeah, exactly. And without the sort of like, you know, finding out what the backstory is on the, you know, movie monsters, right before the final boss scene or whatever, you know, if you just kind of took all those out, like the movie would be pretty brisk. also that effect that you were kind of describing earlier, where it's like, okay, we meet, there's only sort of maybe one A-list star in the movie. Everyone else is, kind of, they look familiar. Who is that? That person's, either character actor or, someone who's, on a TV show, a cable show. In the beginning, we meet, however many people there were, I can't remember, like a dozen people.
Yeah, probably 10 to 12, yeah.
And every time we see somebody new, it has this interesting effect of having it seem like, okay, this is the person we're following. Nope, their head gets blown off. This is the person we're following. Nope, they get blown up with a grenade.
I was fully on board with.
Yeah.
I was very excited with that.
Exactly. It actually, it definitely could have worked. In theory, definitely it could have worked. It was like, but again, with the two cold opens, and then like, you're so disoriented already. Then you just kind of wanted some footing to start the movie, or to start the movie at that point. But if they had started with this
chaos,
kind of chaos, and like, and the kind
build
of like
to structure, build to form.
Yeah.
Instead,
exactly.
they started with structure. It was
exactly.
We like broke the. I couldn't catch on, but I did like it still. But yeah, I agree. I thought it was too much info. Break that stuff up into it. Cut it in somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
If you need to have it.
If you need to have it, yeah. And truthfully, this story didn't need to have it. That was one of the things I was kind of getting at, and maybe we'll dive into a little later. It's just like it was that really self-conscious thing about the movie. They're like, okay, we have to make this viable for the Twitter audience, and
kind of heavy-handed with the Twitter audience, right?
Well, yes, but also like they didn't know where to take it.
No.
First of all, it's like they approached their like 13-year-old daughter and they're like, explain this Twitter thing to me, and like they kind of like put the Twitter in their second hand. You know what I mean?
How do I twit?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But it kind of felt kind of I don't know, tacked on, and then it made the movie unnecessarily convoluted, to where if their motivations for doing this was just that they wanted to do it, which turned out to be their motivations anyway, through a lot of convolution, you strip it down and you get to it. You don't need to like. It's not like there was some sort of great character revelation and like exploring what these people were up to and everything. It's like all of that stuff was just there as window dressing for this sort of like Twitter controversy that they wanted to like tack onto the movie.
So I mean, just to give like let's go ahead and spoil. I mean, if you're listening to this, you should have seen the movie, right? Like, I mean, So Becky Gilpin's character from Glow, she's our main heroine, right? Our main protagonist. Mm-hmm. And then you were mentioning our A-lister, the next Karate Kid, also the $1 Million Baby. Yeah. I mean, she's fantastic. Don't get me wrong, but you're right. It didn't have like full star power behind this movie, but they meet each other at one point, and we find out that the extreme liberals, the rich liberals, are chasing down the hillbillies, as they call them, the deplorables, and they put them in this big field to hunt them down and kill them.
Yeah, and we find out that sort of each one on their kill list, had some sort of Twitter beef or whatever, and they were gonna like take that aggression out.
Right. It was kind of like this like petty reason, which, in many ways, I mean, I'm glad that we're seeing that other side of it. It was interesting to see that, but I think the movie was confused to be kind of reversed. And I think I read that the movie originally was going to be called Red State versus Blue State. That was the original title of the film.
Yeah. Jeez.
Yeah.
So
on the nose.
So yeah. So maybe from the get go, they were kind of trying to attack it the wrong way. I mean, because the thing is, the movie it's an exploitation movie. It's like it's based on the Most Dangerous Game, and it's a slightly updated, more convoluted version of that. And again, instead of just embracing what it is, they're like, well, The Purge has a message behind it. Oh well. Also,
Get Out.
Get Out. Thank you. What was
Yes.
had a political message behind it. We need to inject it into this one, and they didn't find a way to sort of organically do that. So they had this they tacked on two different cold opens, a sort of like bit of explanation right before the final boss, and then in that explanation we figured out what the plan was, but it turns out the plan it was like overly complicated, and it would have just been both simpler and frankly more believable if they had just wanted to kill these people for sport,
to hunt. which I mean, which is interesting because and this let's talk about the other film. So we were doing this double feature. The Hunt is our first film on the list here. The other film that we've got here is Hard Target. These were Jeremy's choices, and I'm so glad I got to see Hard Target. This was starring Van Damme, Jean-Claude
Well,
Van
actually,
Damme.
just to back it up a second, like I think the original plan was like, okay, we're just gonna watch a double feature at the drive-in, and we'll talk about whatever we see.
Oh right, yeah.
For a variety of reasons, like the double feature didn't work out, and then it was like, okay, maybe we'll go back another weekend or something, and that didn't work out either. So I was like, hey, why don't we just this is kind of a either rip off of or unofficial adaptation of the Most Dangerous Game. Let's see what else is in that, because this movie's been made dozens of times.
Sure.
And then one of them that popped off on the list for me was Hard Target, because it's like I had seen the trailer recently again, and it looked so hilarious. I was like, okay, this will be perfect.
Okay, so at this time, I was watching a lot. This was like 92, 91. Is that when Hard Target came out?
93. Yeah, because
okay, so
this is
I
John
was
Woo's
like
first
11,
American movie.
11, 12 years old, super into Van Damme at the time, like Bloodsport and Kickboxer and all of his movies. I never saw this movie, but I did like John Woo movies. I liked Hard Boiled, and I liked Chow Yun Fat stuff was really fun,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I liked that. And he kind of John Woo tried to bring that to America, but it didn't really translate in this film. That real westerny, twangy, almost Twin Peaks music. Those close-ups of Van Damme when he's so. I'll read the log line before we get into the full synopsis of the film, Jeremy.
Yeah. Hold me back.
Hold on, wait a second. So then this guy. Hard Target. This one says a woman hires a drifter as her guide through New Orleans in search of her father, who has gone missing. They discover a deadly game of cat and mouse behind his disappearance in the process. Starring some of the greatest. I mean, Lance Hendrickson and Arnold Vosloo as the villains in this. This is awesome. So you've got the Mummy.
That's
and
the
you've
Mummy.
got
Yeah.
Bishop.
Okay. Yeah.
The Mummy and Bishop teaming up to
Bishop,
destroy
man,
people.
take it easy.
Not bad for a human.
Exactly.
I love Aliens. We'll definitely put that one on there for sure. But in my opinion, I thought that the villainry work in this film was outstanding. I thought that this was James Bond level type villainry.
Yeah, no, that's true. It could have been closer to like a James Bond thing. A James Bond like character is more or less who they would have wanted for this role. Because they kept giving him like slick lines that he kept, tripping over that fat tongue of his and like
tripping over that mullet. God, that thing.
Oh no, this guy was a Cajun Labradoodle in a trench coat. He was just ridiculous.
First of all, I'm not. The only thing that sold me as him being Cajun is that as a Belgium from Belgium, he could speak French, or at least that.
Sure.
So like that was fine. Like I'll take that, but he could not land any of those lines in that movie. Like nothing. I was. Chrissy, my fiance, was sitting next to me, and she was watching something else because clearly that movie did not interest her at all from the get-go. So she checks out immediately. I'm watching. All she's hearing me going, what? Like just the first close-up that you get of Van Damme is the mullet. It's like close on the hair, and then we start seeing who this guy is and his clothes.
As
and it was
he's
like
in that diner or whatever, right?
How's that gumbo chance?
A tragedy.
The coffee was tolerable, though.
It ain't free neither.
Yeah, those real tight shots. Like,
Yeah.
this guy is a badass.
Oh, so I tried that one on you yesterday, huh? It's like, he's reading all his lines phonetically.
What does he say? I left my wallet somewhere or something.
Yeah,
He's trying to get
exactly.
the free dinner.
Yeah, but like, to fucking pull that off, obviously you have to have a much better mastery of the language to get it to work.
I played that one on you before.
Yeah, for the gumbo.
That's right.
Just blows me away. But Lance Hendrickson, that dude can deliver a line in any movie. If you watch any of his work, he has been a badass. And like, well, I was reading some of the notes, and so the way that it works out is Lance Hendrickson is running this. It's an operation for rich people to hunt. They hunt old combat veterans, homeless combat veterans that have no family anymore, right? It kind of gives them a better challenge.
It's
I'm assuming.
Like Lance Hendrickson and the Mummy, have a business.
That's got to be a movie in itself, man. Lance Hendrickson and the Mummy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's like these two guys have, a business where they, entice rich, big game hunters and like, whomever to go and like fight the homeless veterans. And they want specifically veterans because they want to like have them have combat training, and then homeless
gives them
so
a
that
challenge,
no one
right?
cares about them. Right, exactly.
Right. And they needed to find people that had no families, no background, so no one would be snooping around once they disappeared. Well,
which is,
pawn shop guy screws that up real early.
Yeah,
just like in The Crow, the pawn shop fat guy doesn't really help out the situation for the villains.
Right. Yeah, never rely on the pawn shop fat guy. That's the lesson. Yeah, no, it's funny.
But
like,
$20 for it.
Oh God, I forgot to list down when we were talking about like the James Bond like character or whatever.
Oh yeah. That he was trying to be.
That they were trying to be who they were originally reaching out to cast was Kurt Russell. And
yes, I read that.
He
would have rocked that movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Holy shit, he would have rocked that movie. Those lines were written for a Kurt Russell.
Exactly. Like, this is the kind of movie we could have had. Yeah, exactly.
Also, I heard that the movie was more based on Lance Hendrickson's character. There was supposed to be much more. And Van Damme went into the editing room and said, no, they came to see a Van Damme movie. We're going to cut more of me in. Right, and that's got to be where all those close-ups and lines came from.
Yeah, well, and you can totally tell that in the beginning of the movie, at least, that there were, these little chunks of the setup that like weren't quite there, and like
awesome opening.
And it looked like, aside from the sort of the cold open that you're talking about, where they're
I love that opening. I was in it from the get-go.
Motorcycle cops or whatever are like crossbow hunting some guy.
That John Woo can direct action, right? Like that dude jumped on that fence and a dude on a motorcycle knocked him off with the motorcycle. I was like, that was badass. I got really excited.
Well, that part of John Woo is what is so fantastic about him is like,
unmatched.
He will always know the exact best place to put the camera at any given time, and
he's not afraid of a wide in an action movie.
Exactly.
He'll show it all.
Not afraid of the wide, not afraid of switching different frame rates. He'll seamlessly go from double printing to 24 frames to 120 frames to back to 24 frames, and like it's all about sort of the timing and the rhythm of it, and but it's you're always oriented in those sequences, and so it really stood out in certain parts of the opening where we're meeting we're reintroduced to Nancy Butler's character, and there's a couple moments in the beginning where like you could clearly see that they had just kind of like chopped some shit out and kind of slapped it together. But then you look at some of those action sequences, particularly toward the end, and even like the sort of grand finale in the I don't know what that was, the Carnival Warehouse, like
no, it was the floats from like Mardi Gras.
Mardi Gras, yes, thank you.
Yeah. That was I thought that was a pretty cool setting for a final boss battle.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought that was great. I thought this movie felt like a video game.
No, totally, and it worked well, and it's like when you're there in that sequence, you can really see that level of filmmaking that John Woo was so good at. And it's because they weren't like trying to fuck with the story or change it around like you were mentioning earlier with Van Damme needing more Van Damme in the Van Damme movie.
Van Damme it, there's not enough Van Damme in the Van Damme movie.
That was a good one. But what was so funny about it is like, just to go back to the point I was kind of building up to earlier with the idea of Lance Hendrickson, Mummy having this business where they take out rich dopes to go and hunt humans for sport.
Satisfy that craving. Yeah.
It is a more twisted version of what the original story was, which is that there is this former Russian aristocrat holed up on some island who would purposely set up buoys to make ships crash to get people to come in so that he could start hunting people.
That's intense.
So yeah, it's pretty.
It's a great story.
Yeah, but like,
was that just to feed his curiosity and his need?
His bloodlust. Like he had, as a bored aristocrat, he had exhausted all the thrills of killing lions and tigers and bears. Oh my! And he decided to switch over to the most dangerous game, which is man, the most dangerous game.
We definitely are.
And in particular, he would get his kicks if that most dangerous game was also trained in the art of hunting. And so, fast forward to Hard Target.
Mm-hmm.
Lance Hendrickson is talking about how they kind of go from town to town and set up these Hunger Games for profit. And there is something a lot more sort of insidious. Maybe not a lot more, but it's on a different level of twisted insidiousness in Hard Target from the original story. His whole thing was like, we'll go to former Soviet countries. This is the early 90s. We'll go to former Soviet countries where life expectancy is plummeting at an alarming rate and civil wars everywhere. And hey, we can just do whatever we want. No one's going to stop us. And they essentially equated that to 90s New Orleans.
Right. Right. God, yeah.
And the idea was that there is a lot more commentary, and it's done more subtly with how Hard Target pursued it than The Hunt, which was super on the nose and an actual distraction from the movie itself. Whereas Hard Target, for as corny as it is, it was able to weave those themes in a lot easier and more seamlessly, and while sort of enhancing the characters' ruthlessness with making a buck off this thing. And the idea is that it is an update on a former Russian aristocrat in the original story from the 20s, I believe, to something that could have happened in the 90s. What's the version of an aristocrat in the 90s? Well, these guys who are, have more money than they know what to do with, and they're completely bored. With all kinds of thrills, and this is the new and only the deadly thrills that they will be able to seek.
Right, so it kind of had that, and when I was watching it, I would compare it very much to Hostel in this, these rich people, well, like you're saying, they've got so much money, they've done so many things, they can't have a new, they need to have a new type of kill, a new type of satisfaction, a new type of sex.
A new type of taboo, and exactly.
Right, some sort of taboo needs to be broken, and in this instance, it was Lance Hendrickson's business was allowing these guys to hunt. But let's talk about Lance Hendrickson for a second, and that really rad one-shot pistol that he was using.
Right.
What the hell? Isn't that so specifically John Woo to put that in his hand? And it's probably, I bet Lance Hendrickson came up with that, and John was like, sure. Just do something strange with your character. And the bullet belt, because when he tells her at the end, load it.
John Woo would always find very odd and esoteric guns or whatever.
Yeah, weapons.
And weapons
yeah.
for people to play
It was
with.
he characterized them in very many ways. I think that was very much part of the character.
Yeah,
And
it's the what is it called? Like the black hat style of acting where the costume defines the character type of thing.
Isn't that what they compare to Dirty Harry? His gun is it's an extension of his character. And
yeah, exactly. Or it's like, the Daniel Day-Lewis, like Bill the Butcher, hat that he's got or whatever, and it's like knives and whatnot. Like it is his sense of style and where he gets his weaponry from, says a lot about his personality and character and everything like that.
Clearly a cowboy, like some rich cowboy, or trying to be, some outlaw with his trench and everything. Like he was he was a very cool character. So, and if you know that at the end, his jacket lights on fire in that big shootout.
Oh yeah,
and he's turning it off and yelling. That really happened. That was all legit, and he it wasn't. I don't think that was supposed to start on fire, and he just threw that thing off of his back. And
really? Wow.
Yeah, it was great.
I didn't know that was a mistake or whatever, but it was it certainly looked cool.
It was a great one, yeah. Sam Raimi was gonna oversee directing if John Woo wasn't able to communicate with people on set. This is obviously John Woo's early U.S. movie.
No, this is his first one. Yeah, so it's like he had done a bunch of kung fu movies in the sort of the 70s, but then his like huge breakthrough was Better Tomorrow, and that redefined Hong Kong action movies from martial arts to
that started
this
everything.
Sort of like gunplay.
Gunplay with martial arts it was a great mix. That's when Hard Boiled and all that.
Yeah, exactly. So then it's like then there's that Better Tomorrow 2,
The Killer,
Bullet in the Head, The Killer, Once a Thief, Hard Boiled, which to me is still is like best movie, and
by far.
Then right then and there, which is also talked about in Hard Boiled, the British were going to leave Hong Kong, and it was going to start the interregnum period between Hong Kong being sort of semi-autonomous like it is today, through to whatever it is 2046 when it's going to turn into part of China proper. And there was kind of that huge period where Hong Kong movies were had a huge thriving industry, and then there was sort of a talent drain, much like how UFA in the 30s, a lot of talent drain came over here, and that's how film noir became a thing. But sort of unfortunately with John Woo, it his best movies were his Hong Kong movies, and this was his first foray into American movies. And then the producers, like the studio, was nervous about him working on this, so he Sam Raimi came in to, I don't know, as a quick like backup, just in case it didn't work out.
Sam Raimi was a producer. Ted Raimi actually makes an appearance as usual in most of Sam Raimi's work. Overall, I thought this movie was extremely entertaining. I know I've kind of dogged it over text to you and stuff, but I'm only dogging it because if I'd have seen this back when it was released, I would have hated it more than anything. But now watching it, I'm like, that was hilarious. I want to watch more movies like that. But it is interesting to see the shift from Hard Target just to Broken Arrow. And I think there was a big improvement in the way that he got into like the American style of film. And then Face Off, I thought was great. I thought Face Off was his best American film that I've of those action films.
Well, it's funny because Hard Target had that. It is in that sort of awkward stage where it's like he's too good at martial arts to also be that good at all guns and or crossbows, and it's like it was just like so insane.
And also long range shotgun shooting. This guy was like sniping people from across a building with a shotgun. There's
Which-
no way.
Which
But
apparently
then all of a
you
sudden,
can do. Okay.
But then all of a sudden they made a big point of it later. He can't shoot me because he'll get both of us. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, okay, so now the shotgun is spreading.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, okay, now I
Sometimes
get
and
it.
sometimes not. Yeah.
Yeah, just write that one in. But I mean, that was purest like Schwarzenegger action in the 90s. Like that was an 80s movie in the 90s with that. And I think that I just don't think that the music and the tone of that movie was like exciting or anything until you got to those action pieces, and that's where he shines. I mean, there was
totally.
some
Like
awesome action in that movie.
When they were on that motorcycle chase on that, like, half unbuilt freeway or whatever, and the sort of last set piece there, it was all amazing stuff. And it's essentially like those are the things you'd go to see a movie like that for. But what was like interesting to see again was like that how they portrayed New Orleans as this like Thunderdome, and there's like they made some weird thing about like cops being on strike, except for the one woman who was like it was her birthday and she was the birthday cop. All that like all that stuff in the story. It seems like they were just like, you know what? Let's just get rid of this. Like whatever this is, like let's these subplots, like forget it. Let's no one's here to see Birthday Cop. They're here to see Van Damme, and
that's kind of how it felt and how it was cut to him.
Yeah,
like it was all of a sudden, oh, let's learn about this person. No, give me some more Van Damme.
Exactly, but with the Birthday Cop, like she did make a huge point about like. Don't go walk around the city unless you have somebody who knows what to do, because this place is just absolute anarchy.
And apparently he knows everybody everywhere in every part of the city.
Yeah, and
including Wilford Brimley.
Yeah,
playing a Cajun,
like Zydeco listening Cajun hillbilly.
But a badass, right? Who has a bow and arrow. Again, this weapon that like defined him. He's taking out people from a distance with a bow and arrow. That was pretty awesome.
I was, his Cajun accent was getting in the way. I really wanted him just to be like, look, I said, watch Clark. I'm all right now, McCready. I want to go inside now.
It eats them, absorbs them. I love Wilford Brimley for Cocoon and The Thing. Other than that, like he wasn't great in this movie, although if he just had his normal accent,
yeah, exactly.
I think he'd have been much more successful as a character.
No, yeah, exactly. I mean, it both Van Damme and Wilford Brimley had trouble with their respective accents, and both of them were trying to bite off more than they could chew in that sense. One last note about the Hard Target screenplay, and it's we're sitting there making fun of like how some of the story didn't quite come together. One thing that was that really stood out was like, did Van Damme ever get enough money to pay his union dues? I mean, they made a big deal about that.
Oh, that's right. That they never came back to that. I just realized that, and it was like, I mean, that was the reason.
Why did they even
make
that an obstacle? It's just like, yeah, she hires him. Okay, great. Like. Cut to he's hired. Like, it doesn't matter.
Well, no, the reason that he did it because he refused to do it at first because he didn't really need the money, but then all of a sudden he needed the money. So they just kind of wrote in a reason for him to need the money. He's like, okay, I'll work for you for a couple of days. You pay me, and he gave her the exact amount of money that the union dues, $217 or whatever. And she's like, okay, fine.
His whole he went all in on this caper here, and was willing to die for this. So it was way beyond the union dues. They were being a little too self-conscious about his motivations. They're just like, yeah, just hire him. Who cares? Like, let's get the show on the road.
Yeah, I mean, I think it would have been a lot better if it was he was a mercenary for hire, and that would have made a better story because then he would have been, the opposite of those like military great like. Obviously, the Mummy's character was an army guy, right? A Marine.
That's sort of the thing too. Is like it's baked into this one. It's also baked into The Hunt. It's not quite the same, but baked into the source material, which is that, the story works as an embodiment of sort of class warfare. And, this guy had to be shown to be the most working class blue collar guy you could possibly be. He's, working on a dock. He can't pay for his soup, and it's trying to weasel his way out of it with, "I gave you that line yesterday. Oh yeah, I forgot."
It's a good Van Damme.
Yeah, okay, good. I was working on it all week.
No, it's just you see a guy dressed up like that. Like I immediately do not buy that this guy has any issues with money. He seems kind of greasy weaselly in a way. That mullet was gross.
Yeah.
Like there's just a really odd 90s vibe about him that didn't match anybody else in the movie. So I guess it was cool that he stood out. But it's ridiculous nonetheless.
We spent a lot of time with the homeless community there, and he was talking about how he'd been there and off and on, and so it is part of that thing that he's a part of this Thunderdome anarchy-ridden city where you're totally on your own, and then these guys come in here to hunt you for sport. And anyway, it's sort of more or less what was in The Hunt, which is that they really wanted to play the elites versus the salt of the earth. And what's interesting is watching how they do it in Hard Target and watching how they do it in The Hunt, where it's extremely heavy-handed in The Hunt, and like you were saying a minute ago, they beating you over the head with it. This is what this is about.
They wrote it out.
Do you get it, you fucking dummies?
They literally spelled that out for us.
Yeah. They make somebody say that. Yeah, exactly, out loud. Whereas in Hard Target, it is just
right.
the sort of insidiousness of that, and the metaphor there. It's just baked into the cake. It's part of the story. Just before we get to the Mardi Gras warehouse, we didn't have to I have a 20-minute explainer video on 10 things you didn't know about Lance Hendrickson and how he started hunting people. It's just he was there. He was doing it. That
right. Yeah.
That's part of it.
In fact, I would have preferred to know more about Lance Hendrickson. He had a much more interesting character.
And that would have been a different and perhaps more interesting movie.
Right,
but it also wouldn't have been as as fun or whatever, because this one again, for some of its production problems or it being kind of rewritten in the editing room as sort of extremely as it was, at least kind of distilled down what it did best, which is Van Damme stops a bunch of middle-aged punks from robbing a woman's purse, and he does roundhouse kicks and in slow motion, and he does the thing where the gun's upside down and he just smacks the trigger.
I love that. I thought there was some really cool,
all this fun, cool stuff. It's cool.
Yeah. I think it was just an odd film wrapped around some really cool scenes, which to bring them back both together, I think that same thing about The Hunt. I think that they were both movies that contained a lot of really cool shit. It just didn't fully come together based on all the ancillary garbage that was kind of on the outside of it. You know?
That I don't know what it is. Maybe the marketing team sold them on this idea that, hey, if you make a splash on Twitter, you'll make a buck. And how do you do that? Well, you create this Barnum and Bailey narrative about it's a movie that's too dangerous, and then it's a movie about how it's red states versus blue states, and it's the satire itself gets trampled on with how much they really wanted to put such an obvious
a message in there. You mean
exactly? It's such an obvious spin on it.
I thought that was pretty clear. Yeah. But I agree. I think the satire it helped it, in my opinion. I felt like a Grand Theft Auto game as a movie. So I thought that
sorry,
was
which
exciting.
one? In Hard Target?
The Hunt.
Oh, The Hunt. Yeah, and the Glow character, she was a badass, and she gets into the, what's that thing called? The pill box or whatever, and lights up 20 people kills him single-handedly, and just like easily, boom, 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 boom. And then we get set up for the final boss, who's not even in the room. And I don't know what he was, the military advisor was like, no, you're going to have a harder time with the final boss because she's been training for 8 months. And it's like, well, look, motherfucker, you trained her, and I just owned your ass. Like,
That's a good point.
I just no-scoped you.
I just beat Mr. Miyagi. Daniel LaRusso has no chance.
Yeah. And so, when they finally get to the, final hashtag girl boss, it's like, let's explain some shit here. Oh, it turns out this is the wrong person. And as it's like, let me tell you real quick, Mr. Bond, before I lower you into this vat of acid, what my master plan was. Woman from Glow, she's like, well, I don't care. It's like expressing exactly what the audience is thinking. Who cares? And then it turns out, they picked up the wrong person, and instead they got somebody who wouldn't have been an easy target. She was a hard target. And she makes some quick work of girl boss at the end there. Like the fight was not quite as enthralling, but almost as long as the They Live fight. I mean, it was just like it just goes on and on and on. Although I have to say, like, also as a point of contrast with Hard Target, like the way the action was filmed in this was confusing at times, and you'd see, for instance, Glow gets stabbed in the stomach with a I don't know what that is, like a, what do you call it, like a food processor blade or something, and then she kind of twists around and jams it into, what's her name, $1 Million Baby, and it was one of those things where it was like it was almost the Neo and Mr. Anderson fight, where it was like, neither one could harm each other for the longest time, and then all of a sudden something done with a sound effect ends up killing her at the end. Which was like, it's anticlimactic, I guess. What was funny? I thought for sure once Glow got back onto the private jet,
Becky Gilpin?
Yeah, that there was going to be a final twist to it of like, hey, the stewardess actually is the final boss, and oh no, you didn't see it coming. But nope, it was just she kind of like loosened her belt, farted, and guzzled from the neck of the champagne bottle, and it was peace out, motherfuckers.
Yeah. Well, that was good. That was a good little synopsis there.
Okay, good.
All right. Well, I think we should wrap this up. This is the Grindhouse Institute. Our films today were The Hunt and Hard Target, our double feature, both based on the Most Dangerous Game book, which was also a movie. Check them out.
Yeah, it's funny. Like this time around, our the title of the show doesn't have the same like level of irony, because I guess both of these were more or less Grindhouse movies. So
yeah. Well, that's, I think, where the Institute part comes in, the Most Dangerous Game info.
There you go.
Yeah. Well, thank you, man. This was good.
Yeah.
We will do this again. We were talking about doing the Imaginary Friends next, but we started getting on zombies, and that could be like our next foray, I think.
Yeah. Just as maybe a little teaser or something. We had kind of another, mini film festival programmed, but I think we're going to put that one on pause because in talking about kind of a multi-part series on the evolution of zombies, both of us got a little too excited, and I think we're going to end up going down that route. And just the other day, rewatched Return of the Living Dead, which was
awesome movie.
It's
so good.
A lot of fun.
It is really fun.
And I think that will be one of the ones that kind of rounds out our zombie fest. But anyway, something to look forward to, because I know I am.
Yeah, for sure. We'll be posting, this will be the second episode, so check back with us soon.
We now return you to the continued adventures of Lance Hendrickson and the Mummy.
Move! Fucking move! Will you move? Move! Get the helicopter, find Boudreaux.
I can take him from the air.
Any pinhead can take him from the air. I want to take him from the ground.
I can take him from the air.
Be a professional, Pick.